All right, so the recording is in session. Once again, my name is not Dr. Monica Wilson. I have been practicing as a clinician for over 17 years. This particular topic is near and dear to me. My specialization is focusing on adolescents, adults who have been impacted by severe trauma. Obviously, community mental health is something that I'm very also passionate about. And so this topic for me, obviously coming up on the holidays, is one that I was excited to be presenting because I know that with so much that has happened over the past year and a half, going on 2 years with the pandemic, the holidays have changed for many of us. And fortunately, being able to have things reopening and getting back to a semblance of normalcy in regards to travel, and not having to be as isolated from friends and family. This particular holiday season has a lot of mixed emotions for many. Some unfortunately weren't able to be with their families last year, and had to come up with other ways to modify the season. And so, like I said, this time is about really wanting to see what we can do to make the holidays happier. And so, one of the things that I wanted to be able to, emphasize is what seasonal stressors are. We have stress obviously around the holidays because though it's a exciting time, there's also a lot of things that people want to prepare for, travel, things of that nature. And so we want to look at effective ways to cope. We also want to look at the many forms of family. That has changed tremendously during this time. I can say for myself, unfortunately, during the pandemic, I lost my sister, and our family had to really readjust, obviously, to not only not having her present, but also how we were going to celebrate our holiday traditions. And so that has definitely, like I said, happened to many, unfortunately, in regards to this. And so I will be addressing ways to be able to adapt and not have to feel so much pressure around, some of the traditions that we all may have grown up with. Making resolutions, obviously, we normally hear that around the new year. Thinking of really in this regard, it's just an action plan. Some things that you want to think about that you can actually prepare for, and hold yourself to and take away some of the stress that comes, like I said, for preparation for the holiday. And then your action plan, what will that be? How will you implement that? And we also want to be able to look at, identifying the biggest causes of holiday stress. I want you all to, and you can send this to me privately, what are some of the holiday stresses that you could think about that happens for you personally? And just like give me some feedback on that. Are there any? I can't assume that everyone has stress. I can say that in this regard, I've heard nothing but those who are experiencing stress in preparation for the holidays, but everybody has a difference. Thank you so much for the comments coming through. And then finding coping strategies. Very good, definitely. Um, that promote our well-being, practicing setting realistic expectations. Our plan to approach the holidays different this year and what that will be for everybody. It really comes down to how we really look at what is happening. Definitely. Thank you for the feedback for sure. We talk about seasonal stressors, and I can say a lot of it has to do with how we look at specifically traditions. Culturally, they start for us when we're young, and many of the things that we actually do as we become adults has been embedded in us based upon how we were raised. And sometimes that can be very, very stressful because things may be different for you now and you want to do things differently. And it's okay to be able to say, I'm going to not necessarily do away with traditions that we are accustomed to, but I'm going to establish for me and my family or myself new traditions. And it's okay to open that up. I think being able to be flexible is one of the key things that we want to be able to do in this season and not put pressure on ourselves. Part of it is a lot of like I said, the way that we view what holidays are supposed to mean. And really, it's about being able to take some downtime and unplug, not, vamping up and having to pour out so much where you're giving of yourselves to everybody else, but not really feeling the excitement of just being able to take some time to, just decompress. And so, like I said, a lot of this has to do with the cultural influences, the way that we've been conditioned to look at holidays and things that our families have, have expectations on us and things of that nature. But right now, I want you all to get in a space of reframing that. I also, before I continue, want to mention you do have a workbook. Can you all let me know if you received the workbook, those of you who have? Because if you have, I'd like you to utilize it right now as I'm going through the presentation. And if you haven't received it, I want to make sure that you do receive it after the presentation. And that's one of the reasons why we're recording this session, is so that those who were not able to make it will be able to not only hear the information, but also be able to utilize writing down the information. Okay, thank you. I will make sure that anyone who did not receive this, the workbook, will be able to do that, because like I said, some of the information I'm sharing today will be able to reinforce. Okay, thank you all. All right, I will, like I said, I will make sure that you get this. Like I said, because it's some really good tools, and I'm very, very sorry that you have not received the workbook, but I will guarantee you that you will receive that, okay? Like I said, because it goes hand in hand. All right, so I don't know how many to send, and I'll make sure to get it to you all today. One of the things that, okay, I want to also talk about is, like I said, the demands and expectations are, yes, perfectly, thank you, are always around finance. One of the key stressors, like, that I've even received feedback from today, is that financial obligations around wanting to do, wanting to spend, wanting to go out exceeds us. And it can be overwhelming, because it feels like, you're put in a position to where you want to be able to, like I said, make others feel good. And through that, a lot of times we think it's about going out and getting. Um, Definitely. And I can tell you that one of the things that I would say has to rechange is how we look at being generous, and establishing reasonable budgets and guidelines, and being realistic. You know, Through the transition, I can say over the past year and a half, specifically, I'll give my family as an example throughout this presentation. We weren't able to do a lot of the things that we were conditioned to doing. I have a very big family, come from 10 siblings, and I'm the youngest, and I have 4 children. And being in the pandemic, obviously, we want to make sure that we were being very mindful of how we spend our finances. So I told everybody this year and last year, we're not going to be doing a lot of gifting, meaning purchasing gifts. We're going to be creative and use the time that we're spending at home to actually do things that are more meaningful by creation. So we actually created gifts. My kids are very innovative. They were able to design PowerPoint presentations and videos, because they were able to send those to their grandparents, uncles, and aunts. And that, to me, that was the first time we ever did something like that, and we're going to do it this year as well. Was the depth of the connection took place, because not only were we spending the quality time together, creating something together, but the meaning behind the effort was a lot more than us just going out and spending and purchasing gifts, passing them out, gift cards and things of that nature. And then, this, like I said, for all of those that we were able to share the videos with, the PowerPoint presentations with, some of the journals that I created, I actually made journals. It was just a time to be creative. And not only did it help me with distressing, but it also had my kids look at priorities around what holidays are about. Holidays are about an opportunity to spend time with people that, of course, we enjoy, um, quality time, reconnecting, communicating, laughing, sharing good experiences. That's what it's about. It's not so much for us in our and what we have to understand about going out and doing and giving. Obviously, I came up, like I said, in a big family where home cooked meals are part of the tradition, and have been since the day I was born. And I told them, everybody this year is not going to be all on me to do all of the cooking and going out the grocery shopping. Everybody's going to have a task and a role. And I was able to delegate that. And being able to, like I said, getting other people involved in the giving process is not connected to something that you have to purchase. Literally, not only de-stressed the environment and the expectations around the holiday, but it also gave a sense of deeper connection with all of us as a family unit. And so I can tell you, you can come up with your own variations of how you feel about it, and you can share with me some of it. Like I'm getting some feedback from um, the chat in regards to, reframing what giving is. I can tell you another thing that I reiterated to my family and my children this year, that we're going to do more of volunteering. In a space where you're normally, like I said, in the giving, or, looking for how am I going to give somebody something that they want. I wanted to give back to community, and I'm teaching my children that some of part and how to be grateful for the things that you have is about going out there and doing things that are meaningful for others. And so that's a tradition that we are establishing, and they're having to do. So we'll be doing a lot of homeless outreach this season. I can tell you, volunteering, literally, like I said, has changed the way I look at service, the way I look at holidays. It's not so much about my individual family and what we're going to do and what we're going to do to please our children, but more about how we're going to be able to give back in community to those who necessarily are not in the position that we are. And also teaching that to my children, that it's about serving is a part of giving and not always gifts. And so, like I said, you can come up with the things that feel good in helping others, absolutely, to impact yourself. But I can tell you, it does give a deeper sense of gratification when you are helping others through volunteer service, or, whatever capacity that you can. Get your mind off of finances. These things are free. You don't have to pay a dime. They're looking for service, people to help and give back. And like I said, we have all the resources always around us with technologies where you don't have to go out and buy and think that's how you get value based upon what you're giving somebody, what you had to spend. Never put yourself in debt or anything like that to please others. All it does is create deeper levels of stress when all of the holidays are over. We go back to our realities, look at our bills, and we're like, okay, why did I do this? So please don't do that this holiday. Take that stress away from you, and focus on, like I said, ways of service, other ways to have people around you be creative, and don't feel obligated to not have to follow traditions that you normally had to. You can create those new ones for you and your family. I know, like I shared, that I and my family had a deep loss. My sister passed away due to COVID, and she is my oldest sister, someone who helped to raise me, and literally that definitely changed our entire family dynamic, and obviously her children, which are my niece and nephews. Thank you so much. And so I have a deep connection to understanding the seasonal stress. This will be our first year without her. And what we've decided to do is, working through the grief and the loss, is the thing that she would enjoy, I'm going to do. So I will be making her favorite peanut butter cookies for her children, because that's something that my sister did. And thank you so much for those for sending the condolences. But it really, in her loss, we're going to acknowledge her presence by the things that we know she enjoyed. She loves music and dancing, so we're going to have that as a part of our tradition. There will be a talent show that I have to perform in. You all wish me luck, because I can't dance a lick. Um, but these are the things that we're going to do in acknowledging, like I said, some of the traditions that we would have with her physically being with our family. And you can do that. Like I said, right now we want to make sure that we acknowledge if we have are suffering with feelings of a little bit of grief and loss, thinking about ways to honor those who, like I said, have meaning to our life in ways that are making them, obviously, their memory, the good times, all those wonderful things, I think will bring a sense not only of happiness in the space that even though we're gone, we grieve the loss, but give reminders of things that were good in the good times. And so that's what we're going to do this holiday season. Like I said, everybody's different, but more importantly, taking care of yourself and acknowledging how you're feeling is the most important. You don't have to bury yourself in denial of things that hurt us. We have to acknowledge them in order to be able to get the support or help that we need to work through them. And that's what I recommend, and that's what me and my family are doing. Like I said, traditions are something that are embedded in all of us one way or another. And I have decided to operate out of the box and not necessarily feel obligated to any type of form of things that I was growing up with, but obviously creating new traditions that can be passed on. And then obviously my kids can do the same as they get older. We're not bound by things where we have to be flexible as well as resilient. I want to say that, because of the stress, and literally we have seen an increase in over 85% of anxiety and depression since the pandemic hit across the nation. And I can say more importantly that the Center of Disease Control constantly gives us data on what we're seeing people are doing that's not helping them around the stress. And I can say that's all connected to healthy stress relief. Some of those could be, picking up bad habits such as smoking, alcohol has been one of those things, because those are just mitigating factors for people wanting to feel better and not deal with things in life. And unfortunately, obviously, they don't help. They can only exacerbate the situation because the situations are going to be there. It could be overworking. Workaholic syndrome becomes a part of escape. We just don't want to deal with anything else, so we'll work almost until a couple of hours sleep and we're still working. Those are definitely not healthy to do. Avoidance. A lot of times when there's a lot of stress, we will procrastinate. And procrastination gives a sense of burnout, gives a sense of unproductivity. But the reason why it happens is because we're not knowing healthy ways to deal with the stress that we may be dealing with in our environment, in our lives, or whatever. So, what I want to encourage everybody to do is to take a minute, take a deep breath in, a deep breath out, and really think about ways. Obviously I talked about the unhealthy ways that stress can affect us, and when you're not dealing with it in real time and really approaching it by getting the support that you need, it can get a lot more severe. It can have physical implications. Those who have high stress levels have a lot of sleep issues, may have issues, like I said, with chronic headaches, digestive problems. All these things are connected to stress. So I want to be able to just give you all a couple of tips on the ways to cope a little bit better. And the first thing I would say is, immediately, if you've been dealing with stress, anything that's been over 2 weeks, it's time to go and seek help from a counselor, a therapist, because talking through what you're dealing with is the first form of being able to release what we call dopamine and get good hormones feeling in your brain again, but actually can give you a different perspective from a non-judgmental professional who knows how to guide and address the underlining, the things that we're really not saying, like I said, in a confidential way. So that's the first thing I would recommend. And we talked about the finances. Obviously, you don't want to overspend. That is the worst thing to do. You work within your means. Don't feel guilt or shame for what you cannot do, and be creative. There's other things, like I said, that doesn't have to center around finances, that create so much stress and tension in our lives, that we can begin to do and get back to serving and being, like I said, creative with giving people. If we want to give something, that doesn't have to have a dollar price on it. First of all, you being present is the prize. You are the gift. And we have to get back to that connection of humanity. I also say, pace yourself. The holidays need to be a time to unplug. Don't take your work with you. This is, I'm speaking to myself. No work should be coming home or in any environment. You leave that once finish and complete what your tasks are, you leave it, and then begin to look at making sure you plan ahead. Starting today, if you haven't already, get a journal. You can do it on a word sheet as well. And like I said, look at exactly the time that you're going to be spending. Allocate that time to at least 15 to 30 minutes a day. And that's a short period of time of self-care. And what that means is that you're turning off your technology in every form, computer and phone, because every 30 seconds there's a text message or email that's coming through our phone, which we're looking at, and it increases our nervous system, creates anxiety, you all. We think it's helping. No, it's actually affecting our mental health, these devices. So I would say, please unplug from that. Prioritize, like I said, and set boundaries during the season will really help with coping. And those who have difficulty doing that, because people pleasers Those who always want to make everybody happy struggle with this the most. And you can give me some feedback in the chat if that is something you can identify with. Um, because it does create, like I said, a lot of stress. Thank you. And setting limits, being realistic about exactly, like I said, the time that you're going to be able to spend, what you're going to be able to do, delegate those tasks, and do not feel guilty. Utilize this time to rejuvenate yourselves, like I said, and do things that are meaningful to you. So much of the time we get enthralled in our work activities, we get involved in taking care of everybody else, that we forget to put our mask on first. And the pilot will always tell you when you're on a flight, the first thing that you have to do is put your mask on first. If you don't, you can't help no one. Everybody will drown. So put your oxygen. Take some time to make sure that you're balancing out healthy eating, obviously our nutrition, and our stress can come from lack of sleep. It can come from lack of, like I said, malnutrition. It can come from lack of physical exercise. So if you haven't been doing those things, I encourage you today to please start drinking more water. Hydration is key to reducing headaches. It also connects, like I said, with being able to deal with digestive problems. It will help you increase dopamine. That word you are going to know, dopamine is the hormone in our brains that keep us feeling happy. And most of the time people are limited in that. So you want to stay hydrated. You want to obviously get some sun, take some walks. And thank you for the comments. Get into movement. Whenever you're moving your body, like I said, you're actually helping the circulatory system. All these things are biological that will affect our mental wellness. And moving, stretching, like even, sitting in a space of meditation and stillness, all these things are helping coping mechanisms and will decrease stress physically. Once you take off the physical stress, it definitely helps to help us, like I said, with our emotional well-being. And I talked very about giving back, volunteering, being able to be of service and helping others is a way, like I said, to, get away from the stress of the holidays and find meaning and joy in doing something for those who are less fortunate than ourselves. I also want to mention that we know that there are many types of families, and and I've gotten some feedback and I can agree with a large family, blended, all sorts of dynamics take place. And so we know there are many forms of family structures, and trying to be able to see who we can please and what their expectations are, especially those who come from the older side of my family in particular. They don't want a lot of change and have to be able to adapt. I just let them know honestly, I have to do what's best for me and my family. And that's what you need to do. You need to be honest about your expectations, let everybody know up front, and not worry about their responses because you can't please everybody. Like I said, the first and the most important thing is to be able to set boundaries and to be able to say no and feel empowered by no. No is a strong word. No doesn't mean I don't want to. No means I can't in this time because I have to take care of things that are important with me. And that's being selfless. It's not being selfish. Like I said, to be able to do that, because when you're being true to yourself and doing things that are taking care of your well-being, everything and everyone around you actually are better. I know some of this is hard because we sometimes are taught differently. We have individuals that don't necessarily buy into the same value systems. But I'm telling you this from a mental health and a psychological perspective. This is why we're seeing the levels of stress that exist. And so we have to take back the things that we know scientifically that help human beings to be able to thrive are the things that I'm sharing with you today. One of the things I also talked about is, the resolution concept is not about putting more pressure on you to fulfill something that you know that it's going to, if you don't fulfill it, you'll feel bad, but more about setting a life map or goal for yourself. So you just want to write down, things that you really want to be able to accomplish during the holiday. Just your own goal. What would you like to accomplish? It doesn't have to be a long dissertation, a couple of sentences, and it can be reframed every day or every week. But the more that you're able to visualize something, you'll be able to see, okay, if this is an expectation that I can meet or something that I want to modify. And you do it one day at a time. Like I said, this whole holiday season, you ought to make it happier, is about de-stressing from it. and taking away the pressures that come from, you know, what we may perceive as helping and you know, satisfying others' needs. But setting yourself up success has everything to do with you making yourself a priority. You know, write down 5 things that you're grateful for every single day and make that part of the resolution. That's an example of something I promise you it works, to set the tone for your day. If you're feeling burnt out, if you're feeling anxious, if you have any form of depression, just writing down 5 things a day that you're grateful for 30 days actually rewires the brain and increases that hormone dopamine. Just simple, something like that, no pressure whatsoever. And then, like I mentioned, setting up an actual plan around this gifting concept. You know, what we're going to give, what we're going to spend. You've already written down, like you said, what the budget is. If you want to design something or create something this year or get others involved, do that. Whatever it is that, like I said, is going to be something that's meaningful and not pressure is what you want to do. Who's preparing meals, and during this time we have those who have different roles in this regard. Like I said, I've already let everybody know up front, all I'm doing is the cookies. I'm not doing anything else in this season to get other people an opportunity to learn how to cook. And for those who don't, I'm always open to, you know, going to the grocery store and just buying something. I don't feel that, you know, it's more about the fellowship than the food. It really is. And so that pressure around that has to be taken away. It's supposed to be about coming together and just spending the quality time with people that we care about, and not so much, you know, who's going to, you know, be enjoying the turkey or whatever it is that you may eat. It's just the time that you're spending together, and food represents an opportunity to come together across the world. Globally, we do a lot based upon food, and hopefully the fellowship will be not conflict driven. You know, when families come together, sometimes it could be, you know, things that haven't happened. And like I said, yes, exactly. It could be one of those things where, like, the expectations of, you know, who has to cook and all that. I just say make it up front who's going to do it, and, you know, and let it be that. I also believe in, you know, the entertaining, the celebration has to do with just coming together. We do games, you know, and things that help to build a connection. If you're doing that, you can do that with people that you love, or sometimes those who don't and may not be around family. Like I said, there's many different types of family systems right now. We're still in the midst of COVID. Everybody may not be with someone. Some individuals may even be by themselves. And I'm telling you, if that is you, and if you don't have necessarily a large, you know, a family or those who you may be spending time with, or not even feeling that space, do not feel bad. This is a time, you know, isolation, of course, is never good if you're doing it because you're withdrawn and you're just not, you know, because of depression or not wanting to interact. But the time that you may want to just be to yourself, it's okay. You know, as long as you're doing things that are meaningful to you, that's the most important thing that I can ever emphasize throughout what I'm saying. Seasonal depressive disorder is real. It is something that happens around the holiday seasons for many. It's just an overwhelming sense of sadness. They're not understanding why. Well, what that has to do with is, like I said, expectations, stress, maybe grief and loss that we haven't dealt with, and those things come out. So if those are the case, you know, I want you to feel empowered, to reach out, like I said in the beginning, to get the support. You know, now is the time. The employment assistance program is something that your employer offers, which is free. You all, it's free. Literally, the counseling support is done by a licensed clinician that has at least 8+ years experience. It's confidential. Nobody in the company will know. It is for you and your family members as well. Like I said, it's something that you take the time to make this a priority, just to be able to speak to somebody non-judgmentally about whatever you're dealing with and get some feedback. You know, mental health and psychiatry, psychology, social work, all these disciplines are actual science-based. We don't just talk to people and just listen to people's problems. We actually know methods and what we call literal tools to really help rewire the brain and change people's behavior in a healthy, productive way. So yes, it is an investment that I would encourage anybody to make, even if you're not feeling, you know, a severe sense of depression or sadness. It's always just good to just share with someone neutral some of the things that we go through. We all deal with stress on some level in our lives. Holidays can be exacerbating, but this, like I said, time to be able to do that would be about making this holiday one of the happiest that you've experienced, because now you're taking care of you. Like I said, it's something that's available as 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 you all. So if you haven't used the EAP, I would definitely encourage it. There's also an emphasis that I want to make before I close, that when you're trying to decide, okay, it's, do I need to go see someone, or does someone in my family need to talk to someone? These that I have in the bullet points on the slide are some of the areas that you want to look at. If you're not able to sleep, if, like I said, if you're not getting enough sleep, sleep apnea is huge. 2 weeks is our baseline across the board in the profession. You want to go out and seek professional support. If you're having lack of motivation or not being able to feel like you can get the work done at your job and it's just not firing you up the way it used to, it's time to get some support. It's time to talk to somebody. You don't need to suffer. Like I said, these things, we're reducing stigma around mental health, because people, 1 in 5, have an undiagnosed mental illness, and literally not getting the help that they need not only affects them personally, but affects everyone connected with them, family, friends, and relationships. So helping, like I said, putting your mask on first is about empowering you to your wellness, just like we would if somebody was dealing with a physical illness. If they had diabetes, we'd want them to go to the doctor to get to treatment, to get insulin. Our mental health is no different. You want to look at your loss of interest in hobbies or things that you normally enjoy. If you have no motivation to even deal with the holidays right now, please reach out and get some support. If you're worried, anxious, if you have anything, like I said, that's changing your appetite, that's one of the first things that we see too. Stress can do so many things to us biologically. If you're overeating, it can be stress because, part of eating helps with the dopamine increase and the serotonin levels, would make us feel good. So we may want food, carbs, and all those things that are not necessarily good for us all the time. Actually, unfortunately, increases those levels quickly, but you also crash and burn. So if you're over consuming caffeine, you want to pull back on that, because like I said, it's a fight and flight that's having your brain hormones go through a yo-yo, and you'll feel a up and down lethargic feeling, like I said, lack of motivation. And then you have to push yourself to, drink more coffee or whatever you're doing just to feel good again. Get the support that you need. I can't reiterate that enough. For some, during the season has been very, very challenging, but this is about making the holidays happier for you. And I want to be able to say that in order to do that, it's really about taking care of you. I definitely would say, there's more severe, being able to, look at how you seek out help. The EAP is one of the services. I'm actually also going to type in, into the crisis line resource, because some may have more severe, some are in the state of, suicidal thoughts and things of that nature. Like I said, these are areas where we want immediate crisis interventions for those who are feeling grief and loss to the level that needs a crisis. So there are services for that as well. And I will be typing that in the chat at the end, as well as the American Psychological Association on their website actually has a how to have a healthier holiday resource bank. And you can actually click on their site, and there are so many resources that reiterate obviously what I shared today, but actually some key tips to be able to hone in, pass to family and friends, colleagues, whatever you have to do to make this holiday well. And I will also post that in the chat and make sure that you all receive the workbook for today. I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for the opportunity to share this information with you. I hope that something that I said actually will resonate and that you will begin to apply to yourselves. Like I said, making the holiday happier is really about making you feel whole, and not putting pressure on yourself, but unwind and get away from expectations that are too much. And I hope that you all will do that. I'm going to turn off the recording at this time. I got some feedback in the chat, and I'll answer any questions or take any comments, and also type in the chat the information that I shared. Thank you again. All right. There you go. So I'm going to put in the crisis line first, everyone. It's actually a text. This is for anyone who is actually 13 and up. A resource is 741-741, and that's for, they actually have for immediate crisis, but 24 hours, 7 days a week as well. And really a wonderful source. It's confidential, it's private. You don't have to take, you can just go in there anonymously and actually get some support right away. So I've typed that in the chat, as well as the resources that I'm going to share in regards to the APA, making your holiday more successful. I did have some comments, and it is very helpful to talk with somebody. You're right. It can't be your fellow friend who may not necessarily, friends are good. No, it's actually 741. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's 741-741. That's the crisis line. And yeah, no, it's not the 72. So you want to, of course, we feel comfortable talking with sometimes people who know us, our friends, maybe a relative or even a colleague, but not necessarily, okay. Yeah, it's a crisis line because when they want to make it as simple and easy. 741-741 is something that they created just to make it seamless for everybody. And it's really good. Like I said, it's a universal line. It's all throughout the United States. It's something that our federal government invested almost $1.2 billion in creating. It has been the hotline that has been utilized, like I said, for those who are 13 and older. It's a really wonderful resource and it's very helpful. But going back to what I was going to mention in regards to talking with someone professionally, we do feel comfortable sometimes sharing with people who we feel are familiar with us, and being able to talk to them. However, like I said, a professional actually are trained specifically in the area of understanding how the mind works and what we can do to help us have a healthy mind. And so it's not just so much about, just getting off of your chest things, but actually a trained professional can give you tools in order for you to, carve out plans and action steps for yourself to change your way of thinking. One of those methods is called cognitive behavioral therapy. That therapy has been utilized for over 50 plus years. We have evidence that it works universally. It was established in order to help people at one point suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, and has now been utilized just with, like I said, just everyday stress. So we do have methods that talking to a girlfriend or talking to your boyfriend or your husband or your wife or your partner or whatever, or your kids, it would not do. You want to go to a professional, somebody who, like I said, is trained in order to be able to help at a deeper level. Okay. Are there any other comments or questions? I want to make sure that I get the APA resource and the workbook. Do you all have a universal email? If anyone can tell me if they have a universal email that's sent, or do you all have your own private email so I can make sure that you get the workbook directly to you? That would be helpful. Okay. All right. Well, that's exactly what I'll do. I'm trying to make sure that I get this resources to you right now that I'm going to post in the chat. And like I said, thank you all again for your engagement. Okay, perfect. I got everybody. All right. And I will, like I said, as I'm posting this information in the chat, let me know if you don't get that. I have your email, so I will definitely, for those who are sharing their emails with me, I will send it to you all directly after this presentation. Are there any other questions or comments? Anything that you all would like me to mention, or you want me to reinforce before we close today? Thank you all so much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I thank you again. Okay, it does. All right. I'm gonna just send everything in email, whatever, because these platforms can be tricky. WebEx, from WebEx, Google Meets to Teams, Zoom, all of them have all these little tricks. I know email works. That's old-fashioned for me. And I will just send it that way. Whatever I'm sharing in the chat, I'll just make sure I just send everything as one, okay? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, you all, I am wishing you not only the happiest holiday, but I'm also wishing you to continue to stay safe, take care of yourself and each other. I hope that this information, like I said, will be helpful As soon as we log off, you will get the information again that I sent, and through email. For those of you who shared your email with me, thank you so much. I'm going to make sure you have everything that you need, but please take in what I'm saying. If you're feeling any other way than your optimal self, don't feel ashamed if you need to get the support that you need. This life is is not easy, and these have been difficult times. But like I said, we have today more resources that are free and more access to help than ever before if people will reach out to use them. So I hope that you all will. Again, thank you so much and have an amazing day. Bye for now. And I'm going to stay in a few seconds because I need to make sure I get everybody's email. Thank you again. Bye. And if you have any, those who are still on, if you have any questions or comments, like I said, please don't hesitate. Ask me. All right. Thank you all again. Bye, everyone.